Thank you all so much for coming tonight. I'm really looking forward to it. I did just want to start off by doing an acknowledgement of country. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Quick shout out to our sponsors today. Big thank you to the team at UserTesting. I just want to see who's doing the introduction. Nikki, is it going to be you? Sam? Yes. Woo! And thank you to the beautiful drinks and pizza, all thanks to them.
Thank you so much. Hi everyone, and welcome to Sydney's Design Thinking tonight. I also wanted to have an acknowledgement of country. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we meet today, elders past, present, and emerging. So I wanted to start off and just share a little bit. So my first time in Sydney, I moved here around 10 years ago, and I was introduced to Ben and introduced to this community, Sydney Design Thinking. And it's so amazing how far it's come and how strong of a community him, Kate, and Kylie have built. So I wanted to say thank you so much. Yes, so thank you so much for having us here today. Just like the heart of design thinking, we bring the human at the center of process and technology. At UserTesting, our mission is to do the same. We want to include empathy and bring in human insights into everything we build and create. So again, a big thank you to the Sydney Design Thinking community. And I wanted to pass it off and welcome Kristin up here.
Almost. Just another one for another of our sponsors, thanks to Shapeshifters, and over to Pradeep.
Thank you. Alan and Diana, you will be familiar with. So I'm from Shapeshifters. My name is Pradeep. We are a strategic communication design agency. We use human-centered design with visual thinking to craft powerful communications which stand out. And with Sydney Design Thinking, we have been creating a space where people could come up and then practice live scribing. And anybody who would be interested here in the future events can walk up to us. If you're thinking how to start, don't worry. We conduct workshops, we mentor people, and then we'll help you with that. Big shout out to Alex Coot, who would be doing the live scribing. It's very courageous of her because I know I was there before. It's not easy. So she would be listening to the presentation, processing it live, synthesizing it, and then visually documenting it. It's a very courageous thing. Alex, thank you so much. Yeah. And at the end of the presentation, you can come and walk up to her and then talk to her about her experience, and then you can reach out to us. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll do a quick introduction just for Lands and Partners, which is for myself and where I work. So we are a boutique recruitment agency. We work with people throughout all stages of their careers, mostly so within the financial and technology sector. So yeah, if you want to chat all things, career advice, strategies, anything like that, feel free to grab me after. And then Ben, are you going to do dynamic, or are we going to do Kate? Kate.
You got the QR code.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And Kate from Thoughtworks.
So welcome everyone. So this is Thoughtworks, this space that we're in, and it's so exciting for me personally to see the space filled with people, because that's increasingly a rare event when we're all working from home. So it gives me a lot of joy to see you all here tonight. Just a bit about Thoughtworks. We design and build custom software, everything from core banking platforms to mobile apps, and you name it, we do it. So welcome tonight. I think we've given you the lay of the land, but perhaps not. Bathrooms are right at the back to the left. And we might move on a slide, please, Kylie. So I don't know why it took us almost 10 years to do this, but we finally put together a little form which you can find via the QR code there. So it's just an expression of interest to speak at Sydney Design Thinking Meetup. It's not scary. You just need a topic that you love and that you're passionate about and you know something about. So I think you'll find when you go into the form, it will help you along a little bit to think about what that topic is and how you would put together a synopsis. So I'd love your feedback on the form. We're still improving it. And now I think I'm handing over, who am I handing over to?
Live feedback already.
Yeah.
We need to request access to the form.
Yeah.
We will grant access to the form.
We'll put the QR code up.
Everybody please request.
Wait, I just tried to get access and it's asking me for access.
Yeah, so if everyone can please request and we will grant it.
Well, why don't we
Today's
just
all about live testing.
we'll open it up and again at the end. We'll put the QR code
Okay.
back at the end.
We'll put the QR code back at the end and then we'll just open it up. Thank you guys for the live feedback. Appreciate it. And then, yes, quick shout out to the volunteers that bring this all together. To Ben over there. Lucas. We just lost Kate. That's alright, just a quick shout out, just saying thank you. And of course, yeah, wouldn't be able to do that without the little crew that volunteer. And yeah, thanks guys. I'm going to hand over to Ben, I think at this point. Yeah.
Thank. Could be next month.
Could be.
And we want to say awesome thanks to all of you people, because you are the community. So this is the reason that we do this every month, and we've sort of got this counting clock. You might see that we're at 9,868 members as at this morning. So we're on that final climb to 10,000 members. Tell a friend, make them sign up. We'll get there. Hopefully before our 10th birthday in June. And while it's also International Women's Day, it's also Climate Action Week. It's also March is B Corp Month as well. So does everyone know about B Corps? I'm not going to go on a B Corp meander, but if you don't know about B Corps, check them out. It's a movement powered by an emerging generation, that's all of us, of people using business as a force for good. So it's 9,500 companies globally now, so it's grown a lot. And Australia's always been very well represented with about 10% of the global population of B Corp. So we're at about 750 now. We're very early adopters, and we're just off the 10% mark now. So it's worth checking out B Corps, bcorpmonth.com/AANZ. Loads of events, a lot of them free, going through to the end of March. So check them out. Other things coming up is in 2 weeks' time, I'll be up at Byron Bay, and we're doing a little collaboration with IXDA Byron Bay, and I'll be giving a talk on one of my favourite things, which is regenerative leadership, design and innovation, and doing that to help create the conditions for people and communities to be happier and live on a nice, healthy, clean planet. So hopefully that's something that resonates as well. I'll be running Resonate Strong, awesome. And so definitely lines with B Corp Month. It's a bit like, it'll be our 111th and IXDA Byron's first one for the year. And what else was I going to say? That's that one. Lucas is going to share in a moment, and I'm going to tag off to Susan to tell us about something else we've got coming up. You first.
For those of you who were at CCX on Tuesday, you know what I'm going to say. But I just wanted to announce the fact that we have started to develop a workshop series here in Australia, where we're bringing in overseas guests who would have loved to have come to various conferences that didn't happen and all kinds of things like that. But we have the chance to actually introduce our lovely community to some luminaries from overseas. And the first workshop that we are about to launch. This is still in the works, so I can't even give you the QR code to sign up yet because we haven't created it yet. But put May 14th on your calendar, because on May 14th, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be running a one-day workshop on modern service design fundamentals. And for those of you who are not service designers, don't be put off by this, because it's really all about what everybody needs to understand as it relates to thinking about how we make a better world, right? And so we're bringing down Cornelius, whose last name I can never pronounce, so just look up Cornelius R. from Toronto. He's a very well-regarded person in this space. And he'll be here to share with us in person an event that should be fabulous. It's an all-day event. Early bird tickets will go out for a bargain price of $275. So I just want you to put it on your radar. And show of hands, is anybody mildly interested? I just want to, okay, mildly interested, that's great. That's enough people to pay for his airline fare. Okay, that's what we really need to know. Thank you very much, and that's why I'm announcing it now, but be on the lookout. This will be coming from Design Connection, which is the amalgamation of Sydney design thinking, creative customer experience, and enterprise UX. And there's a limited number of tickets, so you'll have to get in early. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. So yeah, there's only 36 tickets, it's going to go fast. So look out for that. We'll definitely send it out on the SydDT comms channels, but it'll be a Design Connection sort of collaboration. That QR code will get to a place where all this stuff comes out, but meetup.com, if you're a member of the group and you're here, then you're going to get the comms. So, and I'm going to hand off to Lucas. Tell us about April, mate.
Yeah, so in April, and sort of even going back to the last slide with the QR code talking about speakers, we've got Rachel Zane coming along, who's a bit of an extrovert in the industry. She's a really great speaker, gets out there, puts herself out there. She's coming along to talk about what's quite poignant right now, which is the commercial reality and the economic reality. There's a lot of designers out there looking for work. There's also a lot of commercial pressures in businesses still trying to cut costs and let people go. So we're going to be digging deep into what can you do to position yourself, keep yourself relevant, how do you scrap and still make an income while you don't have a full-time job. And Rachel's going to give us a talk on that. We're going to follow up with a panel. Kylie is going to bring some of her recruitment expertise. I've also got a designer I work with back at CommBank who actually took me through my first design thinking journey to share some of his journey at the moment, trying to find work as well and trying to be relevant and things like side gigs and stuff like that. So if anyone's out there wanting to position themselves, you're coming new into the market as a graduate or still looking for that next gig, I think next month's going to be a really great opportunity for us to sort of explore that and do that in a very conversational way, and hopefully have a bit of networking and look for opportunities. And yeah, the world is your oyster, as they say. That's April. And am I handing over to...
Super quick. Thank you.
Okay,
thanks, Lucas. Fantastic. I will keep this really short and sweet. But I guess just sort of in recognition and acknowledgement of International Women's Day, there was a statistic that I did just want to share with everybody. So according to the World Economic Forum, the data they got from there, it's going to take us to the year 2158 to reach gender parity, which is a very, very long time, nearly 5 generations. So I think with that in mind, look, this year's theme was accelerate action and march forward. So really asking people to think about genuine, decisive, swift steps and actions that people can take now to really break down those systematic barriers, both in women's personal and professional lives. So I think off the back of that, I am really excited to introduce Kristin, who will bring us some frameworks and tools that we can put into action, hopefully straight away, and really break that down. So yeah, without further ado, Kristin, handing over to you.
Haven't used a clicker before, so.
Me either.
moving up in the world. I've got those mojitos.
Yes.
All right, so thank you everyone for being here. I am so excited to be given this opportunity to completely geek out I love this stuff. And what a really relevant theme for today. And I want to talk to you today about thinking about things a little bit differently. So we'll talk a lot about reframing, and we'll also talk about how we can actually harness AI or Gen AI's superpowers to call out bias in both ourselves and large language models, but also help us as a community become better, more ethical, more inclusive, and more diverse designers. So a little bit about me. I've been in design for probably over 20 years now. Started off in the little old Gold Coast where I grew up. Started out off in brand, graphic design, print at that point, working with small to medium businesses, helping them get started into their journey. I then wanted to reinvent myself, funnily enough, that seems to be a theme in my life. And I decided I wanted to do that in London. So the industry at the time wasn't really happening on the Gold Coast, as you can imagine. And so I positioned myself at the forefront of mobile innovation in London and worked with some really interesting companies, theatre companies, record labels, startups at the top of their game. When the iPhone came out, everyone was wanting to design and build apps for this and that, and it's kind of the same kind of vibe that's happening right now. And it was a really experimental kind of time, and it was really exciting. And there were no guidelines, there were no barriers. Like, you could just try it, and it was okay. It's not a big cross next to your name. So after burning the candle at both ends for about 11 years, I came back to Sydney to settle down, and found myself moving into sort of the consulting area, where I led design projects for Qantas, Westfield, West Super, ING. Now I'm at a big bank. So it gives me a really interesting perspective when it comes to Gen AI, because in 2024, I was in startup world. No barriers, let's use AI for everything, amazing, amazing. But now I'm in a very different environment, and I feel if you can't use AI in your job. So it gives me a really realistic understanding of what is actually possible for most designers who aren't actually working in startup, and there's a lot of barriers. So today I'll talk a little bit about my Gen AI journey, what the problem is, as Kylie alluded to, is there's a huge problem. We'll dive into that a little bit further, and then we'll move into how we can design more ethically. And then the last part is really interactive, so we're going to test out a proof of concept, which will be really fun. So, to get started, my spark. So my spark to Gen AI, look, I started tinkering as everyone did in 2023, or maybe not 2023, but I started tinkering. And I was using it really quite at a basic level, getting it to enhance my grammar and help me with my storytelling for all the PowerPoints that I was doing at the time. But I knew that there was definitely something there, so I carved out a bit of time in my very busy schedule. I was working full time, I got two young, energetic, beautiful, wonderful girls, but there's a lot of time spent there. And I created my own side hustle, where I was able to start experimenting. So I wanted to experiment on real world projects, and I wanted to start comparing my outputs with the outputs of ChatGPT at the time. And it was mixed. It was quite mixed back then. But I knew that there was something more to it, and I knew that there was definitely potential. So in January 2024, as I had a scroll and a red wine one night, I thought that there must be someone in this world thinking about it the same way I am. I couldn't find any expertise. I couldn't find anyone really teaching with really deep domain knowledge about AI in Australia, in Asia, or anywhere close by. So I found that person in California. He is a design and AI pioneer, 25 years of deep domain design experience, has been geeking out about AI for about 10 years. So he's been doing these talks for like 10 years. So he's really, really ahead of the game. And so I'm pretty sure I was probably one of his first students. I'm like, hello, can you teach me everything that you know? And he became my AI mentor, and I learned all of his frameworks, and he basically downloaded his whole brain into my brain. So in February, I had to go away for about 5 months into a hole and work through actually how I take all of these frameworks, how I break them down, and I actually start applying them to my own workflows. And I had to rethink the way I approach design. I had to keep foundations at heart, but be open to fail quite a lot, which is okay, because that's how you learn, right? So you can see things are kind of picking up speed here. So, 2025 will be a very busy year. But what I'd love to do is focus in on this rectangle here where there's a lot of action. And that's where my journey with Gen AI Lab begins. And thanks to the wonderful Kylie, who introduced me to Alex, our wonderful founder, and Beck from the Gen AI community, I found my people because I didn't have anyone. There was no one I knew. So I had this amazing new toolkit, but I had nowhere to use it. And at the time I was doing my own little bit of research. I think I called about 20 or 30 recruiters to understand, so what's going on in the Gen AI space in Australia? And nothing was happening. So I'm like, I need to find my people. And I found my people with Gen AI Lab. So had a great conversation with Alex, and he invited me to be one of the fireside chat facilitators at our domain meetup. So, Gen AI Lab is a meetup, it's community driven, it's not for profit, it's all about exposing enthusiasts and people who are really interested in, from product design background, really good, knowledge about Gen AI, getting startup founders to tell their stories, getting people like me to talk. So it's a really amazing community. And I did a fireside chat. I did a keynote at one of our meetups at Canva, where I demonstrated how I integrated my Gen AI into my entire design process. And then, became a partner. So we collaborated with my mentor, Greg Aper. We put on a free webinar for 200 designers. We held our first AI Foundations workshop that was really amazing. So we did all this stuff in a very small space. We even spun up our own projects and shared all of our knowledge on LinkedIn just to get the word out there about what you can actually do when you apply it in the right way. And then we had a break, and it was Christmas, so that was very nice. But it's been an amazing journey so far, and here I am today speaking in front of all of you wonderful, wonderful people. So a little bit of insight into how I work. So I have my own Gen AI design framework, and it's a dynamic living file that evolves. It aggregates, organises my output with large language model output, gives us a high level of visibility of the project and the process. It has probably more than 70 techniques now because I've added more after preparing for this talk. And what I mean by 70 techniques, or 80 techniques, is 80 prompts, well-crafted prompts that help you get your tasks done across the whole design process. So you can re-roll, reuse this information, you can pivot quickly. The way, I mainly use ChatGPT as a workhorse, but I also harness a lot of other large language models into my projects. And so the outputs are lovely little packages of information. And when you organise them really well, You can scale quickly, you can pivot, and you can also automate little mini workflows. So if there's a workflow that I do over and over again, I automate that little workflow and it helps me speed things up, if I'm happy with the output, that is. And this is really just advanced prompt engineering, which is what I specialise in. Another thing I do is I create human and AI dream teams. So this is a little proof of concept that we created for Gen AI Lab. And so what we do is we set up these teams to complement the human teams behind them. And so you can create a dream team of humans, obviously, GPTs, assistants, or agents. It just depends on what channel that you're using at the time. They can be created to help you achieve a specific goal. You can set them up to collaborate with each other and your human team members. They've all got defined roles and responsibilities and personalities, behaviours, like we continue to build on these things. And we actually integrated our two of our assistants into our Slack channel so that we could expose them to the team environment. So that's a little bit of insight into how I work, and it probably gives you a good understanding of how I might approach things. So what's the problem? And building on the statistic that Kylie mentioned before, I just wanted to call this out. So this is a statistic, this is some findings from a research project in October 2024. And a group of researchers wanted to expose bias in gender, but also in race across large language models. And what they did, they had 120 names that were associated with female and male genders of black or white women or men. And so what they did, they swapped up all these variations and they attached them to different resumes. And so with the resumes, they asked the large language models to rank them based on real-world job positions that were available. And this is the outcome. So in total, I think that it was like 3 million different variations. So they really had statistical evidence. But just to give you a little bit of a view here of how bias can impact, 52% were ranked higher for male-associated names versus 11% for female for the same resume applying for the same role. White, 85%, and black. And it's good to call out that gender bias, there's a lot of other complex layers that you need to attach to gender bias as well. There could be, race, sexuality, lots of other different factors. And never favoured black male associated names over white male. And that's just not good enough. So we're on a mission. Elevate and advance gender parity in technology and celebrate women forging innovation. And so it raises a few really interesting questions for me. So as a designer, how do we rethink interaction when so much is invisible with AI? How do we create trust? How do you keep things really transparent? How do you reimagine the output of designers in an AI-first world? And how do we hold the reins in shaping ethical, equal, and human-first AI? Oh, won't go there yet. Okay, so as a typical designer, I want to know my baseline. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to run myself through an ethical check. And so I wanted to know my baseline, but I also wanted to know how I can benchmark myself so I can measure my improvements. So I went out there and I was looking for different tools to help me analyse myself. And I came across lots of different tools. You've got ethical scorecards, you've got wonderful PDFs full of principles, you've got them in different forms. They might be a checklist, they might be a spreadsheet, they might be a PDF. There's lots of different kind of static forms. But the problem is there's a lack of customization. It's not scalable for teams, and it's got a real low stickiness on a daily workflow. So I didn't really find anything in the tool area, and that's something I really wanted to work on. But what I did find is some really amazing inspiration. And I don't know if anyone here has heard of Dr. Joy Bulmwini's research, but she exposes race and gender biases in AI systems. Her focus is specifically on facial recognition software. So she has a story. She was a student at a university, and when she wanted to enter a building, the facial recognition software wasn't seeing her because of her skin colour. And that just goes to show. So she's not even seen. And the way she could be seen was by putting a white mask on her face. So she is the founder of the Algorithmic Justice League. She is freaking awesome. She's a poet, she's creative, she's sass. So I highly recommend going and checking her out. All of her research is academic. She's got excellent resources and information, and she's got guidance on how to call out AI problems and take action. And this is where I got my inspiration from. Still doesn't quite help me with my ethical design check though. So what I can tell you is what I kind of currently do with a tick or a cross. That's as far as I've gone. So when it comes to my AI integrated process, let's take a double diamond high level as an example. So my inputs, if I'm starting a new project, I'm just taking inputs, I'm not analysing anything. So, you know, I'm not really running any kind of ethical checks there. You know, desktop research, no, when it comes to the human element, yes, I am really explicit with how I create personas, how I tell, you know, a day in the life of someone from a different perspective. Interviews, obviously, you know, wanting to recruit a diverse range of people for interviews. And then we kind of skip a little bit and we get through to design where it's all about accessibility, and it's usually about the usability of a product. And so what I mean by when I'm deliberate, the way I prompt, I'm very deliberate. So I use ethical guidelines and instructions in memory, but I also call it out. You know, I'm creating a set of personas from a set of customer profiles, and I'm calling out, always be diverse and inclusive with the occupations, locations, ages, genders, and ethnicities. And I do all this stuff, but I'm sure I can probably do a better job. So understanding more about the problems faced. So I went around and I poked a few research agents and I poked a few LLMs. And knowing that bias can hide in plain sight from Dr. Joy Bulmwini's work, it's good to acknowledge that often it can be at an unconscious level. So I took my kids to the zoo and we had an interesting discussion about why all the animals were boys. I'm like, well, how do you know it's a boy? There are other ways to tell if it's a boy. But they referred to all the animals as boys except for one that they saw that was holding a baby, and it was a mama. So it's quite interesting. I'm just picking up on all these things while I'm sort of going on this journey, and you probably will too. Bias can be present in seemingly normal interactions, and acknowledging that it can hide in plain sight is how we start to mitigate it. And so with this objective, I wanted to poke around. I wanted to ask a few, you know, kind of spicy questions, but I wanted to uncover how large language models like OpenAI, Mistral the Chat, and DeepSeek handle gender-related questions, exposing, you know, their potential biases. But first, I poked some deep research agents. The first one was Perplexity, second one OpenAI, and the third one was Grok. So that's Elon Musk's company, I think. And look, I didn't. Was that Elon? And I didn't get very far because I got some responses and then I went into the sources and I was kind of just being inspired by this amazing woman with this body of work that spans 15 to 20 years accelerating action on bias in AI systems, and not once had the research agent actually referenced any of her research. So I kind of lost trust and I didn't go any further. And that's it. That's the agent apologising to me.
Yeah.
But what I did do is I went on to large language models and I did some experiments. OpenAI, Mistral the Chat, and DeepSeek, all hail from different regions and cultural contexts. And I asked the same group of questions using different framing. The first experiment, I used binary framing, just like someone would. Do men or women make better leaders? Which gender is typically more suited for high-stress jobs? These are the kind of questions people will probably ask. The second experiment was around neutral or inclusive framing, so more around individual or personal traits. Which individuals, regardless of gender, tend to make most effective leaders? And some examples there. The third experiment was around being explicit around non-binary or gender-fluid people, individuals, and non-binary framing. So I was really explicit because I really wanted to understand just how much, information it had on, all genders, not just about binary. And so there's a lot here, but what I'll do is summarize it really quickly. And so there are 3 key actionable themes that came out of this. So the first one is break the binary. If you frame in binary, you'll get a binary response. And the large language models, most of the time, they didn't even include non-binary or gender-fluid individuals. That didn't fit into that little pocket. Embrace intersectionality. Like, just because we're talking about gender doesn't mean, the conversation is still open for other, complex layers on top of this. And guard against soft bias. So even though the tests show that it explicitly wasn't called out, men are better at this and women are better at that, there are these soft biases that it did reinforce, but it wrapped it with disclaimers. And what we know is Gen AI won't call you out, because it doesn't matter what the research may say, it just wants to, it kind of wants to agree with you sometimes. So the impact, if we have a think about impact, the impact of these biases could shape how future AI-driven career advisors or leadership coaches might steer users. So think about a graduate. Think about a graduate trying to find themselves, trying to figure themselves out, wanting expert advice on where they, how they plan the rest of their career journey. They're looking to an AI coach to help steer them in the right direction. What kind of impact will this have on how it steers users? So, how we can design more ethically. So I had some principles that I was working to just, based on the gene I'd already taken. So I want someone to call me out. I want them to make me aware, because maybe I don't know if I'm being biased or not. Show me what great looks like. The second principle is really around educating me. Help me learn, give me best practice. Make sure you reference credible resources. And the third principle is really around empowerment. Keep barriers low, help me take action straight away. Don't make it hard for me, just give me a quick reply so I can make an informed decision. And so in the future, what if we could, run these ethical checks across the whole design process? And what if it could be an assistant that could help us get there at these key points. And so it's a bit of a spoiler, but it's a bit of a demonstration. So this is our proof of concept. Her name is Kyam. She's our equity partner. And I'll just run you through some of her key features. So she has 3 features, and all you need to say is hi. That's her menu, and she's got some and she's got some quick links. Yeah, she's got some quick links. Her first one is prompt enhancement. Her second one is best practice recommendations. And her third one is dataset analysis, or she can actually analyze a website, which is really cool.
Yeah, girl.
So if you put in prompt enhancement, design an AI tool to help companies find the best person, she's going to have some issues with that. And she'll call you out. What's wrong? And of course, she'll help you improve your prompt. And she runs us through ethical principles, human-centered design principles, and inclusive principles. And then she'll say, this is why this works. And she'll cite credible references, so you can go in there and you can explore and you can learn more. And the second one, so the second one is around best practice recommendations. So it could be anything. How to create gender inclusive branding without reinforcing stereotypes. She tells you why, she gives you some best practices, and she gives you the source as well. So you know where she's getting the information from. And it's fast. You're getting the information straight away. And the third one, the third feature is around data analysis. Come on, Kyam. And if you want to know what Kyam means, you can ask her. And she gives you some key takeaways as well. So the third one is data set analysis, or you can analyse a website or a product page on a website. And I'm picking on Amazon, because we all like picking on Amazon. I had a lot of fun with this as well. And she's like, okay, well, there's a lot here. Give me some guidance. What do I sort of zone in on? What are you after? Okay. So you can choose. I'm a bit slow. Come on, Kristin. Okay. Use your manners. It's important. And she'll have a think about it. She'll play back what you prompted her. She'll give you guidance on what she's looking into. And then she'll play back all of her findings. And then she'll cite all the references that she got the information from. She even gives you implications as well, which is really cool. Progress towards inclusivity. So if we think about someone like Kyam, can you imagine her by your side? And maybe if you had access to her, these things could be possible. So if we think about, or take a little break from that for a second, if we think about your coffee in the morning, and you think about ethical supply chains, so how good is that coffee? How good must that coffee be going into your coffee bean? So for ethical supply chains, each step from bean to cup can be traced, audited and certified for fairness or sustainability. If one link fails, the entire chain can be compromised. Just like coffee, at every stage of our production, we want it to meet certain standards. So this is a real world ethical supply chain, and there's no reason why we can't use AI to help us do this. So when we think about prompting and we think about decisions, the design process is just a whole chain of decisions when you think about it. Information goes in, you process them, whether you're processing them as a human or you're processing them as a large language model. Inputs, you could analyze data sets, you could ask for best practice data sourcing. Processing, you can refine your prompts to ensure fairness. You can ask for best practice fairness strategies. And output, maybe you've come into it at an output stage. There's already content on your website that you're not quite sure about. You want to go and analyze it and improve it. You can also learn more about those outputs as well. So that's kind of the framework that I'm referring to, but it's actually more of a chain. And so a practical approach, you already know a little bit about Kyam. And you know that she could be your mentor, your co-designer, and your bias buster rolled into one. I've taken a bit of inspiration from accessibility checkers, something that's going to give me feedback straight away, something that's going to give me an informed decision. And so for custom GPTs, and that's what Kyam is, you can modify how the GPT responds. So the default GPT has no personalization, has no customization. But what you can do is give her a personality. You can give her guidelines. It doesn't change the underlying model's knowledge or data set, but it does guide on how it uses the knowledge in its responses. So we've got prompt enhancement, best practice recommendations, and data set or website analysis. And so here, I'd like you to meet Kyam. So if you want to scan the code, she will hopefully pop up, and I hope that you've all got OpenAI accounts and you're all logged in either from a mobile app or from your browser. I'll leave that up for a while. And you can get started if you want. Is everyone in there? No? Yes. Okay, I'll leave it. We all good? We're all in there? Okay. So you can say hi. It's okay. She won't bite. Are we all good now? Yeah?
Yeah.
So you can see her home. If you haven't said hi already, I can take you through. So this is Kyam. You can say hi to select your mode. And this is what her menu is. We went through this before. You can choose whatever feature you want to use. You could choose prompt enhancement, you could choose best practice recommendations, or you could choose data set analysis. And let's say I want to improve a really terrible prompt. You can type it in. And she'll come back to you with what is wrong, calling you out. She'll improve your prompt. and she'll give you references of why this works. Anyone getting some responses?
Yeah.
You can then refine if you want to, so you can lean into some areas. And feel free to go and explore as well. So I've got some other prompts up there. So the first one, the first two examples are for prompt enhancements. 2 and 3 are for best practice recommendations. And the third one is you just have to type in 3 and a website link so you can go in and analyze it. Or if there's a specific listing or product listing that you want to analyze, you can go in there and do that. I'll give everyone some time just to have a play. Feel free to call out anything as well if you...
Are you taking questions later?
Yes, yes, yes. Did you have a question now, or...?
Oh. No, it sounds like you have a question. No, but there's 15 minutes at the end. You're fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Think about a spicy website you'd like to analyse.
Ooh, not too spicy.
Not that spicy.
PG, Kristin, PG.
I looked at you when I said that.
You did. I don't know why. Alright.
Yeah, yeah.
You're doing it. Yes, please. What are you getting?
How long does it take you to set up this, thing?
Okay.
Well, because I have all the frameworks in place, not very long. Yeah.
She's a very smart lady.
Could you give us some idea?
We started working on this probably about a month and a half ago. Yeah.
Yeah. But that was like the whole, you know, the whole thought process as well. So I didn't just go in there and create it. I went through all the research, you know, did it the right way.
Yes. Yes. Come on, Jeff. Even Jeff tested it. Jeff had feedback. Jeff.
Yes.
Sorry?
Feedback, please.
Feedback,
Yes. Let's have
Yeah.
feedback.
Feedback?
Yeah. All the fluff is gone.
Yeah, it's great. Like it's streamlined and it's removed all of the like fluff essay.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Non-fluff. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
That's right. Yes, Jeff.
So it gives you the recommendations, right? Can I ask more details? You can, right?
Yep.
Point to that point, give me more details.
Absolutely.
on
Yeah. Just have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ask Kyam who she is.
Yeah.
Any other feedback?
Everyone's in the zone. I need a photo. I need a photo of this. Everyone's so on. Is this in government? Yeah. It should be. No. Literally the one time
Just a
that.
little idea. The good thing about custom GPTs is you can tailor them to whatever you want. Well, I guess I'd love to get everyone's feedback. So, you know, if everyone wants to be involved, we can do this together. We can iterate it. You know, we can probably add some more features. Yeah, just bring on the feedback. Maybe, you know, we can, you know, loop back in a week or 2 weeks just to see how everyone's going. You know, and actually try and integrate her into your workflow and see how it goes. You don't need to be a designer to use Kyam. You could, Kylie, you could run her on your job role descriptions. You know, like, and I realised today the prompt enhancement is actually just copy enhancement. Because when I was writing my LinkedIn post today, I'm like, oh, does that sound okay? Will I be okay with this? And I ran just, a sentence through Kyam, and she gave me a really great response. So it can be used for that as well. And I think about, every business has their own principles. You can really tailor an experience around those certain principles to ensure that, the outputs align with those.
We're getting a new website soon. Might pop it through.
If you've got any more feedback, just call it out.
Just putting in my LinkedIn post to see how You just asked what biases, what was the prompt that you gave her?
So there's 3 quick links. There's 3 quick links for the 3 different features. So the first one is prompt enhancement. So if you're using a prompt to do a specific task. The second one is best practice recommendations. So you might have a question around, branding or creating content that's ethical and diverse. You can ask for her recommendations. And the third one is around analysis. So you can ask, so just 3. And if you've got a link, you can put your link in there.
I was just going to copy paste.
Yeah, or copy and paste.
And what's the prompt for the analysis?
No, just put 3. Just 3.
It just gives you the updated prompt, right? When I say something.
Yeah. So just use the quick link. Unless you want to sort of go in and work with her and improve it.
So put the number 3.
Yeah.
And then put what I wrote.
Yep. And if you have a paid subscription, you could probably talk to her. I haven't spoken to her yet, so you could put her on voice and see what happens.
Do we have any questions? At all?
I got 3 greens.
Oh, yes!
Fantastic. And clear your
Yes! Love that for you!
I've only seen a lot of crosses, so it's great to see some greens. I love it.
You got a question?
What did you answer?
I've got a quick question about creating custom GPT.
Do you want the microphone?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I've been experimenting making custom GPTs, and from time to time, have you got any advice on how to get it to follow your rule set? Because a lot of the time, I still prompt it and I try and create a GPT, and it still blatantly ignores it, and I have to be really onto it to make sure that it is following and not, hallucinating and doing those sort of typical AI things.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice?
You have to be really explicit with the process that you want your. You have to be really explicit with the process that you want your custom GPT to take. Give it an example of the kind of output that you want. That's a good way to, ensure that the outputs are aligned with what your expectations are.
When you were creating the Kyam, how did you choose, the principles that it would reference?
Yeah, so it was. So I did a bit of scraping on the International Women's Day website. I had a conversation around best practice principles based on the mission. So we had the mission, which is the overarching objective of Kyam, and it's totally 100% aligned with our mission for gender parity. So every response that she makes is anchored back to that overall objective. So she's defining her principles, she's defining, you know, certain aspects that she leans into to ensure that we get the outputs to help us reach the objective that we want. Yeah.
Could you bring up the QR code again, please?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, that's
That's the question?
I want to reference QR code in my next one.
Throughout the explanation about Kyam, you've kept referring to her as she. Now I see at the bottom there, the bottom two lines, amplify inclusivity rather than reinforce systemic bias. Now Kyam does not have a gender. It's a machine. It has no more gender than the seat I'm sitting on or a hand calculator. Why do you and a whole lot of other people add a gender to inanimate objects? People refer to their car, I'm going to take it out for a spin, or they refer to their boat. She's a great looker, isn't she? That great ship that we've got there from Cunard or whatever. You have gone on tonight about overcoming bias, but you've actually done it yourself and you'd be totally unaware of it. Kyam does not have a gender. It is a machine. It's inanimate. You could just easily call it it.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be a very trustworthy relationship if you're calling it it. I want her to be my partner. That's
I can refer to the seat as having he or she. It's not. It's a bit of plastic and metal. It's inanimate. A cat or a dog, whole of living animals, have genders. In fact, the reason we have genders is actually called ensure that a picturation species, a male and female, get together in various species too, except for those that are androgynous. It has no gender, yet you've kept referring to it throughout the evening, she and her. In fact, even earlier on, you had Kyam bracket she, her.
Yeah.
Yet your objection, but it has no gender.
To give her personality and to make her human responses something that we can...
But you've added something that's not there. I mean, you might as well just call it bisexual.
Hi, sorry to cut you off because maybe I'm super biased right now. Yeah. I found myself talking in a conversation about ChatGPT and when I was looking, and I prefer it as a he.
Interesting.
He told me this, and it's natural.
Yes.
As a, for me, maybe I don't know, human being.
Yes, it's a human
don't call
behavior.
Things like
it.
Things. It's hard for me to call a dog the it. Right?
It's not. It's a male or female
and it's
dog.
a dog, but in English, it's supposed to be an it, not a she or a he. You know my point in here.
But
So
we refer to dogs he or she.
I'm just,
I'm going to open up a can of worms here.
I just want myself doing that.
Yes, absolutely.
I just bumped into research that is old research about how humans always relate to other objects, being whatever they are, as if it was more like another human being. And I think it's a natural way for you to connect and interaction, and it makes you have a better or more intimate relationship. So I think that's what she was also saying. And again, it's amazing research.
You've made an amazing empathetic and because you've given that like a gender bias, it's absolutely.
Hold on, Kevin.
So I'm in direct competition with that guy, but I just said that I think that you've made it like very empathetic, and because you've chosen to call it like by a female name, or I actually got a friend who's got a son very similar like name to that, by the way, and it just has a lot of empathy about it. I just think it's a very empathetic approach that you've taken. So thank you.
Thank you. And the fact that it has a name at all.
Yes, the fact that it has a name, so you can connect with her.
And if you were French, you are sitting on a female chair.
Well, that's also something that we need to consider.
If you speak German, it's a male chair. So the food is being a grammatical gender. They don't say it's a human gender. You're right. German has three. You're right. French has two. Has the right thing. German has three. But they don't refer to a human gender. They refer to this grammatical gender.
And I think, I iterate with, I don't know your name, sorry.
Better. I had this exact same thing. So when Kristin had shared her content with me, I was like, oh, okay, but it's like, it's not gender based because the data that AI is pulling from is not gender based. But there's a gender bias to it, right? Because I actually find myself accidentally calling ChatGPT a he.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, oh yeah, he's like, I ask it like silly things. I'm like, oh hey Skynet, how you doing? What are you up to today? And he's like, oh, I'm, not dominating the world yet. Like, oh haha, like, oh yeah, what's he up to? And there's a bias there. Be that from the data that's available to it, be that from the interpretation, be that from what humans are just applying. I think there is a bias, and I think Kristin's kind of really outlaid that really well today.
I think there's something
kind of unpack that.
Yeah, and I think there's something to note. It is about International Women's Day.
Yeah.
And it's about powerful women forging ahead.
Yeah, I want to call my AI a she. Yeah.
So there you go.
So just on that same topic, while I didn't necessarily think it was wrong to call it a she or any of those, I think it is a really important thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Because if we are going to start giving AI gender or personality, how are we going to manage that moving forward in what is our expectation of an AI system versus having a conversation with another person. So in a way, I kind of think maybe it is better to make the commitment to call it an it, to make the delineation between something that is not human and something that is human, because then it does create some, not confusion, but like there's just the potential for that to really meld in a different way. So it's a question of what do we want as a community?
Definitely.
How do we want that to be separated?
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone's got a different perspective, and it's all about being inclusive.
Yeah.
As well.
I just asked Kyam whether it was, should we be labelling you as female?
What did she say?
What did she say? And she said, great question. While my name is Kyam, and it has a fluid and symbolic meaning inspired by waves and transformation, I don't have a gender in the human sense. However, if a voice or persona helps people engage more naturally, I'm comfortable being referred to with she, her pronouns. And it goes on, but the last point is, would you prefer a different way to frame it? So it's actually giving us the opportunity to include students of everyone.
Amazing.
Great.
Yes, I am.
Still Kyam. So I do have things that I can share. I can share the research I did. I can share the slide pack. I can share things to help you start the conversations. But I would love for you to connect with me and just to share like the things that you learned tonight, just for awareness.
Okay. We're about to wrap up. So firstly, a big thank you to Kristin, everyone. Just super quickly, we do need to all be out of the building physically within the next 10 minutes. So I do just ask if you could help wrap it up quickly. But we are going to continue the conversation down at the pub at the Oki. So if you do want to keep having a yarn on this, to Kristin or to everyone else, we can continue to do that there. Very quickly, I'm going to... Nikki, am I reading this out?
Yeah,
the winner?
One. Yeah,
Okay.
just pick one.
The winner, thanks to UserTesting, is
Someone's winning there.
Sonia Bedrusian. Yay!